Hello and welcome to the second episode of Working with Wood. The first real project in this new shop is a sheet good cutting grid to get this workshop off the ground. Before this garage ever came into the picture, there were already too many tools stacked up in storage, waiting for a real home. Close to 6,000 euros worth, most bought late 2022. The tools came first, the workshop will have to catch up. This is the beginning of my woodworking journey. I never trained for it, but it was always present in my family. My grandfather was a carpenter, his shop passed to my uncle. Today my nephew still runs it as a one-man carpentry business. More than 75 years of sawdust already in the family, and here I am starting from scratch. The cutting grid needed something to sit on, and I already had the answer. 2 Kreg track horses, sturdy with brackets for 2x4s. Instead of buying 2x4s, I started ripping strips from 15mm OSB sheets, leaving plenty for other shop projects later on. No support underneath, and I had to keep the plunge saw clear of the aluminium rails. This was also the first real power tool moment in this shop, the Makita plunge saw. A vacuum had been used before, but that doesn't count. From that same sheet, 3 more strips were cut. Not the best way to cut strips from large sheets, but that's exactly why I'm building this. Once those 4 strips were cut, the leftover sheet became much easier to handle. 2 strips in the brackets on each side acted as temporary support for the next sheets to cut. Now there's less chance to cut into the track horses themselves. Then came the real test, lifting a full 15mm OSB sheet. That felt closer to powerlifting than woodworking, and in my late 40s, it's not the kind of workout I'm looking for. And to be honest, my technique here is more than a little flawed. That's when lift arms started to make sense. I'd seen this idea on Workshop Companion. Clearly, I was going to need those too. 2 strips of a 24mm thick sheet were also needed to get the long rails to 39mm and fit snugly in the 2x4 brackets. Of course, the 24mm sheet was hiding underneath about 10 other sheets. I propped 4 sheets against a plastic workmate. The 5th tipped them just enough to shove the workmate aside and drop everything flat. Looking back, there was a wall on the other side of the stack. That's where every other sheet ended up. Right then it was clear, a sheet good storage cart would be the next project. The 24mm sheet finally came out. It definitely wasn't lighter, but on the second try I had a better grip on getting it up. With 2 strips cut from this sheet, it was finally time to start the grid assembly. The first step was making the long rails from a 15mm and 24mm strip. I clamped these strips together with Bessie click clamps and fixed them with 3 32mm pocket hole screws. Since the 15mm strips were longer, I cut them down with a Stanley pull saw. Not the fastest option, maybe not the best saw for the job. With the rails ready, I removed the 4 temporary 15mm strips and installed the rails into the brackets as the grid space. 3 of the remaining long strips had to be cut in half to make cross braces, and I wasn't planning for more exercise and doing this by hand. Out came the old miter saw, a heavy beast. 1 cut later, the offcut immediately dropped to the floor. No side supports, no miter station. Another project for later? And the saw smoking like that, isn't that illegal on the work floor? In this design, the long rails are connected by 6 10cm wide OSB strips with cross-lap joints. The process starts with carefully marking the cross-lap cuts on all 6 short rails, ensuring accuracy before cutting them out with a Makita jigsaw. Steady hands keeping the lines true. Next, the long rail's position is adjusted and secured for support with screws to the brackets, taking a moment to verify stability. To fit the short strips, an old wood file rasps down rough edges, working slowly until they slide smoothly into place with a satisfying click. Then, with the cross-lap spots marked on the long rails, stagger cuts are made using a plunge saw working in small sections, pausing for frequent fit tests to check each joint's precision. The joints are again refined with the old wood file, sanding gently for a tight, seamless fit. Finally, a long level runs across the rails to test smoothness, gliding effortlessly, proving it's ready for cutting MDF and OSB sheets. The grid wasn't complete yet. It still needed lift arms. I pulled all the cross pieces back out and marked the curve with my sander. The bulk was cut with the jigsaw. Then the sander did its actual job, smoothing it down. On the next boards, I tried pattern routing. Not needed, but a chance to practice. The standard router base felt awful for balance. Luckily, I'd already splurged on too many accessories. Plunge base, offset base, angle base, the list goes on. With a couple of tweaks, the offset base gave me a bigger footprint, better balance and handle to hold on to. A win for thinking outside the box or just having too many options lying about. The two last long strips could now be cross-cut on the grid using the track saw to make the lift arms. Each had a small hook at the bottom to rest a panel on, and it was rounded again on one corner. No footage of mounting them, the camera battery died, but at least I can show them in action. Finally getting that first sheet up and making a clean cut felt like progress. The workshop was taking its first real steps. Not perfect, rough, and there are better ways to do it. But it works, and for now that's enough. My grandfather's shop has been running for 3 generations. This one is brand new and still finding its shape. Maybe that's the real story. You don't need to start young, you just need to start. Thanks for watching, and tell me, what was the very first thing you built in your workshop?